Oh yeah, we're live. Okay. It failed to go live on the first try, but we're live now. So we've made it to the 10th episode then, which I was thinking about today that like I've made it to 10 episodes and I usually quit at the second one. So it's a milestone.
Yeah, I've
And
had a few podcasts of my own that kind of quit out on.
yeah, what step do you usually sort of whoa, one
Is that
sec.
me?
No, that was me. That was the YouTube channel that was open and
Oh, don't do that.
playing it back. So, anyways, what step do you usually go out on
What
when
kind of
you?
what?
Which step? Like after how many videos do you stop?
Oh, well, with the past two ones I did, with Assholes with Opinions, I did one, posted it, and then we stopped. And then I had another one that was like Divine Profanity or Profane Divinity or something like that. And that was way back in Austin. And we actually recorded 3 or 4 of those, but I never posted any of them. And it we just kind of stopped doing it. So,
All right. Well, we'll see how far we get with all these ones. It's Monday today, so we're doing the five recommendation scheme, and I think I'm gonna start this time because you started last time. Um, and I'm starting off like really weak as well. So it's the Royal Tenenbaums. We're doing films on family life, basically, in whatever way you want to interpret that. And I started my list highly prepared just a few hours ago. So the first thing that came to mind was the Royal Tenenbaums, and was really one of the last of its kind that I really liked. Like I put this film with all the other Bill Murray films. Where who makes these ones again? Wes Anderson, is it?
yeah.
Yeah, so it's like one of the few that I like. This one and the one with the submarine. So
Oh, God, I love the submarine was good. What was
yeah,
Life Aquatic?
the Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
Yes.
And it's mostly the Bill Murray performances there because you see him in such a different light all of a sudden, and then he goes on to do yeah, quite a lot of similar roles with the one in Japan and the Broken Flowers one, which is one of my favorite films by Bill Murray. But for this one, we'll keep it with the Royal Tenenbaums and just a really yeah, fun and alternate take on family life because it's basically like a super rich hillbilly family. It's kind of where those two things meet.
Yeah.
What did you think of the film?
That's a good film. I don't know if they're exactly hillbilly-ish, but yeah, it works. They're very dysfunctional.
Dysfunctional, yeah, that's what I was supposed to say here.
Yeah, it works. I don't know if it was the last good Wes Anderson one. His most recent one has actually gotten a lot of praise. The what was it? The
Was that the one about the hotel?
yeah. What the hell was the name of it?
Yeah, the Grand Budapest Hotel. I mean,
That one's
I
supposed to be pretty good. I also liked Fantastic Mr. Fox. I enjoyed that one. The Darjeeling Unlimited, I like that one, and that was one that not many people liked. So I kind of liked all those weird kind of because there were his movies, and then there were a bunch of other ones that started around it, like the Squid and the Whale and Thumbsucker.
right.
So I kind of liked all of them. They were just all that weird kind of, I don't know what you'd call it. They're
It's,
like the alt rock of cinema, I guess you could say.
sure, they like the sort of the quirky filmmakers, and I just liking him too much with uh, Tim Burton, whereas they have such a profound style that it's hard for them to escape that and to make something that is escaping their own cliches, basically. But the Royal Tenenbaums, for me, it's because of the performances are so great. I really like that film, and if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend checking it out.
Yeah, good choice.
So on to your first one.
All right, so my first one, a little bit more obscure. The 1961 Jack Clayton horror film, The Innocent.
Okay.
This one is based off of a novel by Henry James, and it follows this woman, Miss Giddens, played by Deborah Kerr, and she has to watch over these two little kids that are really kind of like terrible children. But basically, there's this thing about the mansion that they're at being haunted, and then there's some deeper kind of subtextual stuff working under the scenes about the fact that maybe these kids are actually more dangerous than the ghosts are. Um, and I have an interesting theory about this film and how the kids relate to the ghosts, but I won't spoil that here. I actually did a review on it. Really fun film, just kind of different take on family, I guess you could say, with these very creepy kids. Creepy kid horror films always being, well, actually, most of the creepy kid horror films I've seen have been terrible, but this one is really good. So,
Well, there's this thing about having kids and horror that they work so well together. And my DP Jim Edgar that I mentioned quite a lot had a theory on that. It's because you're taking something that is so sort of normal and you put it out of context. You put it into a situation that is not in the right context, and therefore it becomes creepy.
yeah, but we even have like urban legends of like the black guy, like like the black eyed kids urban legend.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole bunch of stuff with kids, so I do wonder if there's some kind of innate kind of fear of evil children.
Well, I suppose so. Yeah, they're unpredictable, aren't they? So
Yeah, but it also just seems like there's a lot of plots that revolve around that as well.
right.
Damien and the Omen, or the baby being replaced in Rosemary's Baby, or
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Innocents, or Children of the Corn, all 17 and a half of them. You know,
Well, for my next one, I was kind of doubting between putting the Wizard of Oz in, which I did, or Alice in Wonderland, because they are more exploring sort of the theme of, and I felt that as a kid, like where you sort of feel like, oh, I'm growing up now, I want to be away from the constrictions of family life. So these films really create a sort of a metaphorical image, and sometimes a very literal image of people running away from family life and then slowly sort of recognizing the value of family life, I suppose, and then looking for desperately for a way home again.
yeah, very much so in the Wizard.
Also, this film stimulates me a lot as because I do visual effects from time to time, and I'm very interested in the history of visual effects. Much because I wanted to understand what people said that Superman cannot really fly; they're just using a blue screen. Which I didn't understand when I was a young child. So like later on, I saw a presentation on Filmmaker IQ, which is one of my favorite channels when it comes to learning about the film industry. Um, and they actually went through the history of blue screening, and Wizard of Oz was actually done on something called a yellow screen. So it was like before the blue and the green screen techniques were invented, they were using this yellow waved light that they could then filter out again by using chemical processes. So
Yeah,
I really
blue.
think this is worth it.
Cool. Yeah, blue screen they actually used on Blues Brothers.
On the Blues Brothers.
They used blue screen on that.
Okay. Do you know for which scenes in particular?
I believe it was some of the stuff with the cars, like when the
Mm.
car is falling like 500 feet in the air, you know, and like crashing into the cement. I think there's behind the scenes footage where you can see him like flipping cars and shit on a big blue screen stage.
There's actually a film based on the sort of the genie in the bottle thing, and I can't remember what it's called now. And they use a very cheap blue screen effect in that, like a very old film this is. And they need to make this huge genie with a tiny man in his hand, and you can actually see like the blue spill coming over. So you have this like blue halo around the end. It's
Oh,
a
that's bad.
big
Yeah,
Hollywood film, you know, from like the 50s or something, or the 60s maybe. So yeah,
that's
like that's why the Wizard of Oz and also Mary Poppins. I almost put that one in place. they really tickle me on that level.
Yeah, Mary
So
Poppins might actually work better for the family theme
yes,
because she's getting the kids to behave the whole time. Where Wizard of Oz, she's kind of alone in her own world for
yeah.
most of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Wizard of Oz's story that eventually got me to put it in there because I just think it's a lot grander.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, well, my next one again is kind of a fucked up horror movie. Also involves kind of a weird family and ghosts. This one is also a ghost movie. A Tale of Two Sisters. I've brought this up on the show before, but I don't think I ever did it on the list one. So I figured I'd include it here. It's a 2003 South Korean horror movie directed and written by Ji Woon Kim,
Hmm.
who also did I Saw the Devil and The Good, the Bad, the Weird, and A Bittersweet Life, which I wasn't a big fan of. But he really good director. You should definitely check him out. He's one of the big boys over there in Korea. Um, Basically, this film it where to begin? It follows these two sisters. One of them just got home from I believe a mental institution or something like that, and there's a whole bunch of twists and turns involving the stepmother and the sister herself, and trying to figure out what's exactly is going on. There's a lot of twists and turns. Most notably, as I mentioned before, there's a triple twist ending where
Okay.
it has three endings back to back to back that each twist back and forth on each other, where it makes you think, okay, this is one thing, and then it goes, no, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's it's insane how this movie throws you for a loop at the end of it, and it is a really interesting family piece as well,
Right.
especially because it's very much a female focused piece. The father, being the only male character that really spends any time in the movie, is not too much a major player compared to the two sisters and the stepmother. It's mainly about the drama between the three of them. So it's a more female centric movie than I think you get over here in America or in the UK for that matter. So
Oh,
it's interesting on that level.
wow. Well, my next one, I'm going to look it up right now because
Yeah, I'm IMDbing these two as I go along.
it's just the poster that I'm looking for. I remember now. It's a film called Brand Upon the Brain, and I
Hmm.
believe I might have mentioned it before. It is a Canadian film made by a guy called Guy Madden, and what he's done is basically he had all these memories of his family life. Like he lived in an orphanage, but it was ran by his parents, and this is as far as I understand because I haven't done a lot of research on the film. I've just been quite obsessed with it for a while. Um, and what he found there was this projection, this 16 millimeter projection apparatus, and all these developed films. So he started watching them, and this was like when that technology was already way outdated. Started watching them, and sort of seeing, because you had to shoot in like little reels, started seeing these sort of fragmented pieces of stories with frames skipping and missing and entire pieces of the story missing. So when he became a filmmaker years later in sort of our modern age, he started replicating that and he started shooting on like 16 millimeters and 8 millimeter cameras and just cutting out frames and, just making it look like they were these old sort of 20s films. So this is a one in a trilogy, and it's pretty epic and weird, and it's a real. I mean, the closest you could compare it to maybe is David Lynch, but it goes maybe even a step further in fragmentation and weirdness.
Oh, so you're talking like what the fuck was his name? This was going to be a really good joke, but I totally ruined it. So you're talking Lars von Trier levels of weirdness then.
Yeah, I'd say he sits in between David Lynch and Lars von Trier, because Lars von Trier is lately going a bit off the deep end. When I saw Antichrist, I was just like, I had
Have you
this.
seen his earlier films? He's always been off the deep end. Like, did you ever see Europa?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you got to see Europa.
Okay,
Actually, is it? Yeah, it's Europa, not Europa. Europa. There's
right.
another Europa. Europa. That's another World War II movie, I believe, about a gay that joins the Nazi youth to.
I mean, the graphic violence in Antichrist was insane. Sorry?
Oh, I said he's Jewish, not gay. My mistake. But yeah, he joins the Hitler Youth to avoid concentration camp.
Right, okay.
What were you saying?
Um, yeah, no, the graphical violence in Antichrist was kind of where I switched off of Lars von Trier forever.
I still haven't seen Antichrist. I got to check that one out.
Yeah, I wonder if Europa has any of the sort of uh, um, the lengths he's gone through in that film to make things absolutely disgusting and not fun to look at anymore. I mean, I get it. He's trying to engage a reaction from the audience, but the audience walked away. Like
But Antichrist was supposed to be kind of a shocking movie, right?
right,
So he's purposefully going into like solid territory and stuff. So
right,
I mean, that's like a particular brand that you go to for things, you know, and not that's for like a very specific audience goes to that. It's not a very big mainstream audience that likes the super extreme. Europa is not near as controversial in that sense, that traditional sense. I think it's more on kind of a weird moralistic sense that the movie has some controversy around it. Um,
okay,
it shot wise, it's beautiful. He does a lot of mixing between black and white and this weird color that's not a standard color or a technicolor. It's like a pastel color where like he paints over the black and white and it looks crazy. And he does these weird framing things, devices, and he actually shoots stuff on mats so that he can overlay different stuff, and it looks crazy. But what's weird about it is you could interpret it in some way as having a pro, like a sympathetic stance towards Nazis,
right,
because it's post World War II, and it's this American taking a railway job, and so this is right as Germany is recovering, and you've got still a lot of Nazi fervor there, and a lot of like crazy stuff going on. So weird movie,
hmm.
worth a check out, I guess.
All right. So your next one.
Yes, my next one. Um, for the third one, I went weird again. I went with The Last Temptation of Christ.
Yeah, you did.
Well, um,
Y-
it's a 1998 film directed by Martin Scorsese. I'm sorry, 1988. My mistake. Directed by Martin Scorsese, probably one of his most controversial films. In
mhm.
fact, when it was released, there was actually a theater in Paris, I believe, that got firebombed by a Christian terrorist organization
All right.
protest of this movie. So it was a really kind of crazy release. But it's the most human portrayal of Jesus that's probably ever been put to screen
Mm-hmm.
in terms of whenever they do Jesus, there's this struggle between the humanness and the divine side, and how to actually portray that, like how much divinity do you show versus humanity, and there's a whole bunch of like moral issues with it. And Martin Scorsese went very humanistic in the approach, and it really works. And where the family comes in, I believe, is between the relationship of Willem Dafoe, who plays Jesus, and Harvey Keitel, who plays Judas, um, because they're together from the very beginning of the movie before he even starts preaching the gospel. And so it sets it up to where not only is he the first disciple, but they also have this weird kind of brotherly connection that's more than just a friendship. It's a very profound bond that they have. And the two of them are on the top of their acting game in this movie. The plot is fantastic. And it really is a very, it's an interesting look into that character. And I do think that the relationship between the two leads here of Jesus and Judas is very strong. It's very well done, and it makes the plot all the more interesting when it
Hmm.
comes time for the big betrayal and all that stuff and how he chooses to show it. It's a very fascinating film, and I think that's how I just managed to squeak it into family
Right.
using the brother connection.
Well, yeah, I definitely thought that was. Yeah, I mean, I still haven't seen the film yet because I'm kind of working my way up to the Jesus films, basically. You know, like I'm trying to get more and more into that story of the Bible, but it's so huge in front of me that I've never really sort of made the step towards it. I heard a lot of the stories in school because the school I was going to for like 8 years was highly religious,
Right.
and we went to church and stuff, and they read us from the Bible. I always really enjoyed the stories. Obviously, here they're going a bit on that final moment there. You know, I've seen it handled in other films, but
We should clarify that this one is not based on the Bible. It's based off of a novel by Nikos Kazantzakis. I don't know how
okay,
you pronounce it, but it's based off of a novel called The Last Temptation of Christ that has a because there's a big change at the end of the story here that is not part of the biblical canon,
oh,
and
okay,
that's where a lot of the controversy came from with this film. When it,
right, okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. All right, well, that one has always been on my list to watch one day, but it just looks so gruesome as well, you know?
It's not that gruesome, actually.
No?
No, but my sense of gruesome is like very. It's a lot more liberal than most people because I enjoy that super gory, salo type area of cinema. I watch a lot of those movies, so
Right.
I'm a lot less squeamish when it comes to that. But no, this one isn't that bloody. I wouldn't say it's as bloody as like Passion of the Christ or anything. But then again, I haven't seen Passion, so. But I think this one probably has a lot more artistic merit than Passion because it
Right.
has a lot more questions about about religion in that sense.
Fair
And I
enough.
think you'll find throughout history that the ones that do more questioning tend to get more controversy. Um, so
Cool. Well, my last film is at least a little bit of a weird one as well. I've purposely chosen a poster that was big enough. I couldn't find many posters on this film, and I could not really remember whether it was called Killers or The Killers or Real Killers.
it might have multiple titles.
It does actually, and Real Killers is an alternate title that you will definitely find it under if you look through Google. If you type in the word Killers, which is the way that it was on my video, you run into a lot of different films called Killers. But
Yeah,
this is
John Woo has a
basically,
killer. So I was
yeah,
just saying, I got a killer on my movie library right now.
that's it. But basically, this story here is that. Well, I saw this before Natural Born Killers, but on this blog post I read that he was the other person of the two people that ever rented this film um, that thought it was a Natural Born Killers sort of rip-off kind of thing. Because that became so popular, a lot more of these films were made, and this definitely bears the hallmarks of a Natural Born Killers kind of thing. Those two people you see with the painted faces, they're basically like escaped serial killers. And that's not necessarily where the family aspect comes in, but they land at the house of this sort of middle middle class family, and that's about all I want to give away from that. But I can guarantee you that it goes really, really strange, really fast.
Oh man, that sounds good.
It's a film I saw probably when I was a little bit too young, and but it left a real impact. But it's a very strange and unpredictable film.
Oh, you gotta love those weird movies.
Mm. So that was kind of my last recommendation here.
I think you should have one more.
I should have one more.
Yeah, because I'm on recommendation number 4.
Oh, are you? Okay, well, let me go and find that one because I'll probably have it somewhere. Uh, you can talk about your next one then.
And by find it, he means make up one.
Maybe I did actually do four.
All right, so my next one is Bullet in the Head. And this is another similar kind of situation to the one you just mentioned, Real Killers, because you have to search it very specifically, you get a different movie. In 2012, Stallone did this whatever movie called Bullet to the Head. This, as you can see, is Bullet in the Head. It's a 1990 John Woo action movie about these three guys who grew up together since they were little kids. Ben, Frank, and Paul. But that's I guess the American dubbing. So the Chinese names are Abe, Phi, and Little Wing. And they wind up getting into trouble in their kind of home country. They wind up killing somebody and having to flee, and so they run over to Vietnam, I believe, and this is during the Vietnam War, and so some crazy shit happens there, and the movie just it's a really interesting movie. I would say it's one of John Woo's out of the ones I've seen, and keep in mind I've only seen The Killer and Hard Boiled. It's one of the most emotional ones that I've seen out of them. There's a real powerful dynamic between these three guys that are practically brothers, and that's kind of, I guess you could say, the plot of the movie is these guys who are like brothers, as money and this insane violence and all this stuff gets in the way, gets thrown in their lives. How is this going to disrupt that dynamic between them? You know,
Right.
is this temptation going to be too great for them? Uh, that's kind of a big point in the movie is they wind up getting a bunch of money that's through kind of illegal means, but you get what I'm saying. So
Right on. Um, so yeah,
you
I
got a
actually
recommendation, man, or you need me to?
I haven't got one. Like I was pretty sure I had five, and then I
Did
just came up with the killers one like on the final moment. But like,
did you
there's no
count
way.
back up to discover there were only four?
And there's nine. Yeah.
There's nine.
So I've missed one, but yeah, it's gone. I guess so.
Well, I can do my next one then, and
Yes.
time to kind of think up one on the fly.
Right.
Okay, this next one is probably a lot closer to like an actual family movie. Um, Oni Baba. This is a 1964 Kaneto Shindo film, Japanese director. Uh, he also did. Let me get his director credits up. He also did Children of Hiroshima, The Naked Island.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he's done some big ones. Though those two were big ones right there. Mother. So yeah, he's done a bunch. The film here is about a mother and a daughter. Uh, Kichi's mother, yeah, Kichi's mother and Kichi's wife, and they're living in the Warring States period of Japan. So
Right.
this is a period of like over 100 years of constant, never-ending civil war. And so all the men in the kind of the place have kind of gone and died or like all fighting, and so these two women are left by themselves to try to survive. And so what they're doing is they're killing samurai and then selling their armor. They kind of they lure them to this big pit, this really super deep pit, and they tricked them into falling into it, and then they climb down the pit and get all their armor. And so they're doing this, and the daughter is falling in love with this guy that comes back from the war, and the mother doesn't like that because she's afraid the daughter will leave with this man, and then the mother will be all by herself and she won't be strong enough or sexy enough to lure these samurai to their deaths, and thus she'll starve and die. And so it's this real kind of this very tense drama between these three central characters, and then there's also a kind of a ghostly samurai that shows up later on, um, and yeah, it's it's the only other kind of it's in a weird genre of samurai movies that
Hmm.
are samurai ghost movies. Typically, most samurai movies are kind of like uh, the actiony kind of almost spaghetti westernish type, you know, that I love. But there are a few that actually deal with kind of supernatural stories, and there are Kuroneko, which was also a Kanedo Shindo film. This film Oni Baba, and then there's another one or two out there. There's one with Tetsuya Nakadai that I haven't checked out yet. But this one's a really good one. The locations are absolutely beautiful. It's this big field of this really tall grass that almost kind of looks like an ocean. You
Cool.
know, like, oh man, it's beautiful. The locations are beautiful. The plot is really good. There's not much exposition at all. You're kind of just thrown right into it, and it develops very naturally in front of you. Not too much. There's no real like expositional dialogue or anything like that. It's got a real haunting presence to it, and it's got a fantastic ending. So I would definitely recommend you guys check this out.
Cool. Okay. Well, I found one. It's not a hugely inspired choice, but I had to come up with something. So I went with The Godfather.
Oh,
Because the funny thing is, this film for me is like Star Wars. Like they came out when I was younger, and I always knew I had to see them because I really liked films, and these were considered to be, like the big films and the good films. But they just, whenever I saw previews of them or trailers, that just didn't really grab me that much yet because I wasn't so much into trailers yet. So it took me quite a long time for to actually sit through The Godfather and sort of be ready to experience it for what it needed to
oh yeah,
be
that's a two-week
experienced as,
movie.
So therefore, I figured like I might as well, if there's any people still out there still waiting for that moment to consider starting to watch The Godfather, you might as well start doing it now. So that's why, and I guess with it's a definitely an alternate take on family life again, where it's family life with very deadly consequences. It's kind of
Well, I
like
mean, it's like one of the most familial kind of gangster films out there.
that's it. Yeah, I mean it's all
It's
about
all about
the
that's like a central component of it. Like everything in that movie is based off of the family.
yeah,
It's
and I
really
think it really does try to dive in the concepts of family life as much as it does on being a gangster.
yeah. I'd say it's almost more about like family than it
Yeah.
is being a gangster. But yeah, definitely.
And I quite like that whole sort of unspoken rule thing, or even spoken rule thing. Like, you can only ask the Godfather, for a favor once a year. That
Oh
makes it all
yeah,
sound.
yeah. They have a whole bunch of interesting little like tidbits in there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's very kind of that was kind of like the last of that like kind of generation of gangster films. I think I don't think anyone's kind of made a film as classy as that one. And I don't mean anyone's made a film as good. I mean like the gangsters in other films tend to be like way more kind of like street level, not kind of as intense or not. What am I saying? I guess like gentlemanly would be the word.
Right.
You know, like every other one I picture has got like Joe Pesci cussing people out, and you know, not to say that there isn't violence in this one, but it seems like everything's just a lot more like classy in this one. They're taking you back to old Italy, and it's like the very kind of like early days of it when it was still like upper crust kind of thing, you know.
Well, there's something very glamorous about that, and it's something that, like, yeah, could benefit a society a lot to, like, treat each other with sort of a certain respect, even though you might be, a criminal. But like just sort of social courtesy and stuff. I think it's pretty great. Cool. Well, that sort of brings us to the hour mark, and we're through films. I don't know if you have anything else you would like to talk about.
Yeah, I have one thing.
Wow.
How many movies do you have to watch before it becomes a marathon?
Right. You wanna take
Well, I
that
mean,
on.
we were talking about it before. Might as well finish the discussion.
So just to put it into context, then that's what the first thing he asked me just before we went live was, how many movies do you have to watch before it comes a marathon? And I said 6.
6. That
A-
seems like a lot.
And that seems like a lot, but I'll explain it to you again then, and then for everybody else out there, like when I was like spending weekends with my dad, like we watched a lot of movies, and we went to the video store and rented 6 movies per night. And I think the main reason we rented so many movies was that we both wanted to get our share of our own movies, even though mostly we shared the same idea of movies. It had to be basically either Bruce Willis or Mel Gibson when he was still, you know, not a crazy person. So
Yeah.
we rented 6 movies every night, and we watched them all 6, and then we went back and rented another 6 movies. So that's what my standard of a marathon is. But
Oh,
mm,
that still seems like way too many, though. I mean,
it is, yeah,
so what is 5 movies? If it's not a marathon, then what would you call 5 movies?
a failed marathon. Like you almost got there. Why did you quit?
Well, I mean, I can see like 3 being a trilogy, and 2 is a double feature. So those 2 are covered for.
Yeah, because that's it. Like yesterday, I watched Kill Bill finally because it hadn't been done this year, and I was like, "Oh!" Somebody whistled it at me at work. I was working, and when I'm working, I'm sitting in a Hangout, Google Hangout all day, and somebody was whistling the Kill Bill theme, and I was like, "Oh shit! Now I have to watch this movie." And I found like the whole damn uncut thing or something, which was the film that screened at Rain Dance or
Oh,
Cannes.
the whole bloody affair, I think
The
it's
whole
called.
bloody affair. That's it. Like, yeah.
The cartoon sequence and all that.
Mm. Yeah, everything. It was like a 4-hour movie, but like it's just a movie.
Well, it's one super long movie, is what it is. Yeah.
Because it's like is a 12-hour movie. Is that a marathon or is that just one movie?
What do you mean? If the movie's 12 hours,
Yeah, there's movies out there that are 12 hours.
just a long movie. Like I
Yeah,
watched. If you watch the 47 Ronin, that's like a 1940s or 50s movie. Uh, that's like a 4 or 5 hour movie right there.
right.
They've had them before. They're kind of they're like endurance movies is what I'd call them.
Yeah, isn't there like the one from the Empire State Building, to which I always say that like Andy Warhol, I think it's an Andy Warhol film, and he sat there for like 12 hours or 24 hours filming the Empire State Building doing nothing, and it's idiotic. But
There's a
it's,
Russian film out there that's like that long, I think.
yeah,
Also, one that was like one take.
yeah, like one single shot, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like a big old movie with like fancy costume pieces and stuff.
So you're saying a marathon is counted by the amount of films and not by the length of
Yeah.
one film?
Well, I mean, because that brings up because like if you do like for example, the Lord of the Rings extended trilogy, where you do all 3 extended cuts, that's like 9 hour. That's like 9 hours right there.
Right.
Would that just be a trilogy, or at that point have you hit marathon?
I guess you have hit marathon, yeah.
But normally I wouldn't consider 3 movies. I think that would just be a trilogy if you did 3 movies. I'm not sure. Well, what if they're like 3 completely unrelated? Like, what if you're just doing actor and you do like 3 unrelated movies from an actor that aren't part of a franchise or series? Could you call that a trilogy? They're not
No,
related.
because like then what? Then I should be probably in the Guinness Book of Records for watching the most films every day. Because like even when I'm working, I'm having a film on here on the wall. So You know, like I'm in a constant marathon. Like,
Yeah,
is there
but
some
just
sort of official movie marathon game going on?
I don't know, but I just thought that was an interesting question. Like, when does it stop being like just a series of movies and go into, okay, this is officially a marathon?
Yeah,
Because like, what are four movies and what are five movies? Is that just a quadrilogy and a quintuplogy, or
maybe then it starts depending whether or not it's the same film. Like maybe it's a marathon only when you complete like if like a Harry Potter, I think there's like 6 of those or something or
yeah,
8.
so that's definitely a marathon.
Yeah, but only if you watch all of them.
Yeah, only if you do all of them.
Otherwise, it's just a failed marathon. Like you just didn't make it.
All at once. That's the standard.
We can't reward everything, you know. Like we have to have some standards.
There has to be some cutoff.
Cool. Well, that's it then.
What if it's like 2 4-hour movies? Is that a marathon or is that still just a double feature?
But that's only 8 hours. Like that's an
That's still a
evening.
long ass time. That's 1 hour shy of the Lord of the Rings extended cut trilogy. I mean, like you do Godfather 1 and 2 back to back, and you've got just about like 8 hours there, right? 6 to 8 hours.
Right. It's different. It's like difficult to answer actually whether or not like this or that is a marathon. Maybe it's more like a mental state. If you are prepared for a marathon, then that's what you're doing. Because like, what if is it does it still count if you don't even really pay attention anymore at a certain point? Like you're just having them on in the background.
No, I don't think it counts as the background. I think you have to be actively watching it.
That's it. So it's like it's really difficult to say when it's situation specific.
Yes. You got any other random topics that won't fill up the whole show?
No. No, I'm gonna make an end of the show actually. I'm quite happy that we reached the 10th one. I think you've been on it for like 7 now, so
Most of them, yeah.
cool. Well, on Thursday we'll be back with a specific topic, and we'll go in and try to make a 2-hour show on that. If anybody out there has a particular topic they want to have covered, then get in touch with us either via Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, or just email us. You can find the email address on the Indie Boogie website. Antonio, do you have some accounts you want to mention?
Yeah, my YouTube is always youtube.com/user/what sounds best, or just search Evil Antonio Reviews. That'll pull it up. Twitter.com at Evil Antonio. Facebook.com/The Evil Antonio. All that stuff will pull up. And you actually need a slash there in between user.
Oh yeah, you do need a slash there. Yeah, that's true.
That link will not work.
I don't know. That'll be better.
Yes, that'll work.
Cool. Well, we'll see you all again on a Thursday. That's next Thursday, 11 p.m. London time. I don't know. Is it 5 p.m. your time?
Yeah.
So
Whenever we
yeah.
start on time, it's 5 p.m. Central Time.
So if we're on time, it's 5 p.m. in Texas and 11 p.m. in London.
You just say Central Time. That covers more states than Texas.
Oh, Central Time. Yeah. Well, I don't know how to deal with a continent that
West
has
Texas has
multiple
2
time
time
zones.
because we have Mountain Time way out west in Texas. Oh,
Cool. Well, say bye.
bye.
Bye.